Welcome to the video, and indeed a brand new space. Apologies for any missed week's videos, but I think finally settled in, back in action, and really excited to be making and sharing videos with you. Still a little bit of decorating to do, but we are getting there, and I thought there's no place better to start with a brand new video for 2025 in having a little debrief, if you will, of the past couple of months spent with my brand new Fujifilm X100VI. I namely took it to New York City for its first proper test for an awesome 5-day trip in the city. I vlogged the whole thing and I really appreciate the support on that video. Yeah, it went down really, really well, and there was quite a few questions off the back of it. So I thought I would address some of those and just share some of my thoughts on the experience of using it as a day-to-day camera and indeed on that trip. So let's get into it. First and foremost, my overarching feeling about this camera is very, very positive. I absolutely love picking it up. Its fun factor is 100% 100. It's super nice to look at. I just want to take it out with me. I want to pick it up, put it in the bag, put it in my hand, take photos with it. It really gets me into that kind of creative mood. When I was in New York, I didn't hesitate once about taking it out. I barely use my phone for photography, and I always just naturally went to this. Its compact size and kind of lightweight features just make it a really easy thing, non-negotiable to bring with you. I mean, I'm coming from the Sony, which isn't exactly giant, but this is even smaller. And if you watch my vlog, you'll know that I managed to even squeeze it into my Wandered tech pouch, which was an absolute touch because it really didn't add any weight or anything to my body while I was walking around. 40,000 steps a day is a lot, and it was a mission in New York, so I was super glad not to have any extra weight. I was a little worried about going APS-C. I've been shooting full frame for such a long time that it was playing on my mind just that little bit to wonder whether I'd get the results that I wanted, and I did. I was really, really pleased with the results that I got, and probably if I'd have had the choice, the procrastination of lenses, what to take out with me, what not to take out with me, perhaps I wouldn't have even got some of those shots, because as I mentioned, it wasn't a doubt in my mind ever to leave this behind in the hotel. And as it was a kind of a hybrid trip, it was a family trip, it was a really nice camera to use as a tourist, as a photographer, and just blend the two together. A couple of downsides of that, I'm just getting used to it. I think a lot of the frustrations I find with it are probably down to user error, especially around pressing buttons that I don't mean to press. So I probably need to remap some buttons. And autofocus, I'm used to a very, very snappy autofocus in the Sony. I'm well aware that it's just probably not as good in the Fuji, but potentially I just need to learn how to get the most out of it a little bit more. So any tips for autofocus, I'd really appreciate them. Drop them down below. Now, questions about the Fuji that I've had. My probably most asked question is what recipe did I use, especially on those New York photos. Now, I was recommended this recipe by one of my followers, Steve. He's awesome. Thank you very much, Steve, for all of the support and for this recommendation. Reggie's Portra. I love it. It's the one that I've gone back to every time. I've tried quite a few, but not really fallen in love with them. But this one I have. The only thing I've tweaked very slightly myself is I just cooled the white balance a little bit because I do like a slightly cooler tone in the image. I'll pop it up here so you can get an overview of it. But if you go onto Fujifilm Weekly, the whole recipe is there. You can plug it into your camera and have a play with it. But overall, a really nice recipe. I felt that was like not too much. I'd like a subtle look, and I don't want it to look super grainy or have any real heavy kind of filmic look on it. Just something really nice for the day to day. So that was really fantastic. Did I find it restrictive in terms of for focal length? There was a couple of occasions where I guess I kind of did, but I knew that I was going with a 35mm lens, and this would go for any camera with a 35mm. Potentially, if I'd have taken my Sony, I might have only taken my 40mm with it, so then I might have been restricted as well. When I was over in New Jersey shooting a sunrise, I potentially would have liked something more like a 24, because I actually ended up using my phone for an image that I really probably liked the best out of that mini shoot. But actually the phone, came through trumps and did it wonders. I could have taken a panorama. I could have taken a few images and stitched them together with the Fuji. That would have worked also. But that was probably really the only major occasion where I found that I was a little bit restricted. And I really just enjoyed using the 35. I thought it was a really good, versatile, all-round lens. Another thing was kind of my workflow. Was I shooting in JPEG or RAW? And this is something that I wanted to share with you because it's been quite the game changer for me, especially on that trip and actually on a day-to-day as well. What I did is I went super minimal on the trip, as I've already mentioned. I didn't take a laptop, which is really unusual for me. It was a 5-day trip. It was going to be really packed and busy. I knew I wouldn't have a huge amount of time to edit, but I'm a very impatient kind of person. And when I take my photos, it's part of the fun for me is to review them, look at them, potentially post them quite quickly because I get a big buzz off of that. So I knew I needed a way to do that. In my process of learning this camera, I've realized that the raw photos are absolutely amazing. However, they are absolutely massive with it being such a high megapixel camera. And I didn't really want to have to deal with them. So what I ended up doing is setting the camera to shoot in JPEG and RAW so that I'd have both. And then on a day-to-day basis, or potentially when we had a little break, I took my iPad with me, my iPad mini, which I love. And I just plugged in the memory card into a little card reader, imported into Lightroom the JPEGs only. They went in super quick. There was no fuss and no lag or anything like that. And then I had that set of images to review, to share with my family. We could look at them from the day's outings and events. I could post some quickly onto my Instagram if I wished. And then I knew I had those raws for when I got home and potentially wanted to edit them a little bit further. But I have to be honest, on the whole, I was incredibly impressed by the JPEGs. And there's not actually one yet that I have gone in and edited on the raw. I'm not a massive pixel peeper, so that might be different for different people, but it really worked a treat. And it just meant that I had all of my images at my fingertips when I wanted them. I wasn't weighed down with kind of a major editing workflow, and yeah, it just worked really, really nicely. Great for travel, really, really great. And I felt so much freer having less camera equipment, less tech with me, not a laptop, just my iPad, and it felt really enlightening and really freeing. So overall, my experience, as you can probably tell, has been really fantastic. It doesn't mean that I don't love using my Sony. I've been out and shot with that as well. I also love it, and I feel like they have two quite different places in my kit list, and I'm feeling really lucky to have both on hand. But I have to be honest, it does draw my attention. Maybe it's because it's still new, but I really, really love it. And I'll be doing lots more shooting with it in 2025. I've posted quite a few of the New York trip up on my Instagram, and I use it a lot to shoot daily pictures of just bits and pieces that I enjoy, because I like to be creative every day, even if I'm not going out and shooting. And it's been brilliant for that because you can just pop off a shot, upload it, boom, job done, easy peasy. So if you want to go and follow me there, HY Images, shameless plug, I will put the little handle here. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much for all of the support. And if you do have any questions, or indeed tips and tricks for the Fuji, because I'm still very much a Fuji novice, I really appreciate it. So drop me a comment down below. I will look forward to seeing you in the next video, hopefully out and about shooting with a camera.